How's it going, YouTube? It's Crazy316 here with you once again. I'm making this video in light of the recent and past events on the debate of homosexuality and same-sex marriage. This is a topic I have laid down to rest a while back, but I feel I can no longer stay quiet on the issue because things are getting way out of hand to the point of complete and utter ridiculousness. Every time someone comes out and says they support a biblical view of marriage and that they do not support same-sex marriage, leftist, secularist extremists blow gaskets and lose it. They immediately drop the several logical fallacies, including but not limited to calling you a bigot, a homophobe, intolerant, saying you hate homosexuals, and a laundry list of ad hominem attacks. The problem with these empty slogans is none of them really apply to the sweeping majority of people they are attributed to. Hate is defined as to dislike intensely or passionately, to feel extreme aversion for or extreme hostility towards, to detest. If you want to see or hear about what was just defined, you simply won't find it in a majority of those whom the term is placed on. If you want to see true hate, you need look no further than most Middle Eastern countries where they hang and kill homosexuals. I don't want to see homosexuals killed, hung, or even fired from their jobs simply for being homosexuals. I've even changed my opinion on Don't Ask, Don't Tell because it is, after all, the jobs of homosexual soldiers, which they end up losing upon being found out, and that shouldn't happen. However, I say they shouldn't be trying to promote their lifestyle when it is extremely irrelevant to military business. But I digress. A lot of you might say, well, what about the Westboro Baptist Church? The problem with these cats is that a sweeping majority of Christians reject the Westboro Baptist Church. We do not agree with their message. Then there's homophobe. Most people don't really fear homosexuals or homosexuality. Notice I said both, as one is a person while the other is the lifestyle. Seriously, who do you know runs away from or hyperventilates when they see a homosexual or when someone announces they are a homosexual? Like, oh my goodness, not a homosexual, I'm out of here. You don't really see that stuff. It's just fabricated fluff from the homosexuals and supporters thereof. So you've also got intolerance. This is often mistakenly used in place of lack of acceptance. You see, we don't accept the homosexual lifestyle, but we do tolerate it. Tolerance being the ability or willingness to tolerate something, in particular the existence of opinions or behaviors that one does not necessarily agree with. Acceptance, on the other hand, is the act of taking or receiving something offered, favorable reception, approval, favor. So here's an analogy in the form of Q&A. Question: do you think homosexuality is good or okay? Do you accept it in society? Answer: no, I don't think it's a good lifestyle and I don't accept it, aka approve of it. But they can sleep with whoever they want as long as they're not trying to cram it down our throats or the throats of everyone else's children in schools, which, by the way, they are already doing in a few states. That right there is tolerance without acceptance. You follow me? If you want to see real intolerance, again, go to the Middle East where they hang and kill homosexuals simply for existing. Lastly, there's bigot. You see, bigotry requires intolerance and is already false if you agree with the previous situation, the analogy that I just gave. Now that we've discussed our side of the fence, let us now bring the attention to the leftist extremists. These are the ones I call the fascist homosexual mafia. This is because out of all the preaching about tolerance and the crap that they preach about, they do not practice what they preach. When I first started discussing this topic, I made the video titled, Who Are the Real Haters? Link in description. I discussed how during the Prop 8 issue, homosexuals were going around vandalizing churches, accosting churchgoers, invading church services, throwing confetti, sex toys, and chanting homosexual slogans during services, and even attacking Christians, trapping them in big sheets, throwing hot coffee on them, which would in turn burn their skin. How many Christians or conservatives do you know that go around vandalizing Apple, Starbucks, Target, or Home Depot for their pro-homosexuality stance? You simply don't see it. It's always the homosexuals and their leftist supporters. Even Lee Dorian, aka How the World Works, is a supporter of same-sex marriage, but blasted the leftists for their dirty deeds trying to demonize Chick-fil-A and Dan Cathy for his stance. He understands tolerance and that people will have different views, but it's nothing to be wicked over. The link to his video is also in the description. Recently, we had Dan Savage, where when trash-talking the Bible with tons of misquotes, ripping verses way out of context, and just all around failing at making a truthful argument against the Bible, Christian students respectfully got up and walked out, quietly as to not participate in his idiotic and hate-filled rant. Upon the students leaving, he called them pansy asses for not wanting to hear his nonsense. What kind of grown man goes around calling minors pansy asses because he's throwing a temper tantrum like a child, and people don't want to hear it? This is the same nasty, disgusting buzzard that admitted to having a really bad flu, trying to infect presidential candidate Gary Bauer by licking the doorknobs of all the offices. He also admitted to keeping a nasty saliva-filled pen in his mouth, trying to get the candidate to sign him an autograph. He wanted to cough all over his stapler, desk, and everything in an extreme attempt to make Bauer sick with the virus before the New Hampshire primary. This is who the White House, under Barry Soetoro, chooses to advocate for anti-bullying. It's so absurd, it's insane. But on the other hand, it's believable coming from the moron we have in office right now. Now, the latest example of leftist bigotry would be the leftist extremists that vandalized a Chick-fil-A, spraying graffiti on the building saying, "Tastes like hate." The delicious irony of that. This is simply because Dan Cathy was asked what does he think. Wait a minute. Rewind that and repeat. He was asked what he thinks about marriage, and he said he supports the biblical view of marriage. However, his company posted a statement adding that, quote, "The Chick-fil-A culture and service tradition in our restaurants is to treat every person with honor, dignity, and respect, regardless of their belief, race, creed, sexual orientation, or gender." End quote. This is perfectly logical. One can have an opinion opposing same-sex marriage while at the same time serving and hiring homosexuals, which Chick-fil-A does. The problem with leftist extremists is that they lack true tolerance. If you disagree with them, you need to shut up and sit down. That's pretty much how it goes with them. They have no tolerance for the Christian view of marriage, no matter how peaceful it is. The sheer thought that someone does not approve of the actions that take place in the homosexual lifestyle is enough to make them go berserk, followed by a barrage of emotionally filled propaganda and rhetoric. Jesus Freak did a video a while back agreeing with Kirk Cameron's stance on marriage, which also took a biblical stance, and Bionic Dance, who is a YouTube atheist, lost it in an emotionally filled and illogical video against Jesus Freak and Kirk Cameron. See my video titled Kirk Cameron Hate Speech versus Free Speech. That link is also in the description. It shows her extreme hypocrisy, where in the end she challenges Jesus Freak to tell her in person what he said so she can be violent towards him. The sheer irony of the leftists calling Christians and conservatives bigots, haters, and intolerant is outstanding. At the end of the day, the only real examples we have of these terms come from their side of the court, not ours. And I only listed a fraction of examples. I support Dan Cathy's stance on same-sex marriage, as I too am a Christian and hold the same views. I do not support it, nor do I support homosexuality. But at the same time, I respect them in that they be able to hold jobs, be served like everyone else, not be victims of violence, etc., etc., etc. That's pretty much all I have to say on the matter. I've just had it with fascist leftist extremists labeling everyone that disagrees with their views as bigots, haters, and homophobes. Grow the hell up, grow a sack or some ovaries. Who are the real haters part 2? You follow me? If you don't, oh well, too bad, and I'm out.